Welcome to the DraftKings Market Movers for March 25th, 2026 on Drafting Out Loud, also known as Brian Robinson Jr. Day. Let's jump into it. Okay, so here are your risers. We're going to skip Turpin, Leonard, and Genty, who are kind of boring ones, and jump right into, again, Brian Robinson Jr. He is signed with the Atlanta Falcons, and he is going after pick 200, and he's going to be now guaranteed, basically guaranteed backup role in Atlanta. He's been falling down the boards. You can see even for the month, he's down over 6% and still down for the week, even after a climb over the last 24 hours of 2%. I would expect this climb to keep on happening for probably until the draft, is what I'd expect. If you go and look at where Algier, the backup last year for Atlanta, was going, and I don't have the perfect records on this, but I was seeing him going in the 150s last year as the backup for Atlanta. You got to think that Brian Robinson Jr. is going to then start to climb up draft boards around that same 150 range. And what we've been seeing is that people have been climbing up boards relatively fast here. Heck, we even got Isaac Guerendo, or not Isaac Guerendo, sorry. That's something on my mind. Other San Francisco backs, more on that later. We've even seen someone like Isaiah Pacheco going right now, like in the 160s, which is crazy. And we got Brian Rodriguez or Chris Rodriguez Jr. going in the 130s. You can see him down at the bottom of our chart here. And if you ask me, Brian Robinson Jr.'s definitely got to be going ahead of Isaiah Pacheco. And I think there's an argument for why, Chris Rodriguez is probably overvalued at this point at 138, and why Brian Robinson Jr. and Chris Rodriguez should be going at similar picks. If you like Brian Robinson Jr. more because of the what he's done in the past and probably a guaranteed role on Atlanta, I wouldn't blame you. If you like Chris Rodriguez more because there's still a chance he can be the starter, while there's essentially zero chance Brian Robinson Jr. can be the starter, I don't blame you there either. That being said, right now a 70 pick difference between the two is rather crazy. So Brian Robinson Jr. easily going to make his way probably into the 150s eventually. And relatively quickly, you're going to see this happen, I would guess. So I would get on drafting Brian Robinson Jr. if you want that closing line value. We did expect him to keep on falling, but we did keep on saying to keep on drafting these free agents while they were falling, because they were going to eventually rise when they found a spot. That being said, I did mention on a prior video that I didn't think they'd find spots right away because of the compensatory picks, but Brian Robinson Jr. did find a spot in Atlanta here. So, expect the rise. Now, what does this do? This also changes up potentially the 49ers backfield. So someone not on the risers list, but I kind of expected go on the risers list here would be Jordan James. He was the rookie last year for the 49ers, and he actually, it was only a couple of carries, but he looked pretty good in the playoffs when he got his chance in kind of garbage time. Um, People were drafting him last year in like the last round, and I think we got to do it again and start drafting him here in the last round unless the 49ers do something in free agency or in the draft. Jordan James is there, and then Isaac Guerendo is still on the 49ers, and I know everyone's down on him, and so I'm not saying go out and draft him as well, but Isaac Guerendo was a freak athlete. He just had other issues. So we'll see what happens there. Is it Jordan James? Is it Isaac Guerendo? I think right now probably the expectation is it's Jordan James, but I think we got to keep our ear to the ground on what's going there in on the 49ers. I do think this opens up another little opportunity to try to save a couple running back draft picks for later and get some nice backup running backs in Brian Robinson Jr. And then again, like Jordan James, if you ask me, Jordan James, I haven't seen him go past the last round, but that might start changing here at some point too. I bet you we see him on the risers list here eventually. Going through these risers, anyone else we want to hit on here? Christian Kirk still rising up the boards at 187. I think he makes sense on a team if you go very weak at running back, or not running back, if you go very weak at wide receiver, for example, you have a bunch of rookie wide receivers early on because they're falling on DraftKings. So you get like all three rookies, and you just need points at the beginning of the season because you don't expect those from the rookies. I think Christian Kirk makes sense in that spot. He also probably makes sense if you have Brock Purdy, of course, for the stack. But at 187, I don't know how I feel about that in other types of builds. If you have solid wide receivers, what is Christian Kirk going to do for you throughout the season? I don't think a whole lot. So, not someone that I'm going to be targeting, but he does have a place at 187. He starts to get kind of expensive. Javonte Williams rising up into the 30s now at pick 39. Pretty darn expensive for Javonte Williams, if you ask me. A place for him, but I was having a hard time clicking him when he was going a little bit later than that. So, do what you want there. I think having a small percentage of him makes sense, but it's not like you're getting him in the 10th, 11th, 12th round or whatever it was like you were last year. Now he's going here in the fourth round. Basically, um, he's going before like Kyle or Kyrie Williams and Bucky Irving sometimes. So that's pretty darn crazy if you ask me. But there he is. Seth McGowan, rookie running back, legal issues, had to change teams, but was a high profile high school athlete. Um, he's looks like he's rising up just a little bit here for the day. He can be like a last round pick if you want. Wandale Robinson rising up boards here to 85 on DraftKings. He's much more expensive on DraftKings. Makes sense because, again, the PPR stuff. At 85, it starts to get a little pricey right there. But if you don't have any wide receivers and you want to open up a stack with a later round, sorry, if you don't have any quarterbacks, you want to open up a stack with a later round quarterback, Wandale Robinson might be one of those players you could target and then get a later round Cam Ward. We also have Travis Kelce rising up the boards here a little bit to pick 131. Not super excited in him. That being said, I do think there's opportunity to get, like, again, a falling Patrick Mahomes and then pair him with an Xavier Worthy or a Travis Kelce. So I think that's an intriguing back stack. David Montgomery still rising up the boards and Chris Rodriguez still rising up the boards on DraftKings. Both of these players are, their cost has probably gotten a little out of control if you ask me. Neither of them are pass catching running backs, and they're going at 51 and 138, higher than they are on underdog, and a little too expensive probably at this point in time on both those platforms. If you like these players, get them on underdog where they're probably better picks and they're cheaper. So there are our risers. Brian Robinson Jr. and Jordan James, I think, are the ones you want to keep track of most. And then everyone else here, I don't know if there's anyone else really to follow on these risers, if you ask me. When it comes to the fallers, we have a bunch of names here, is what we got, basically. And let's just kind of hit on some of the ones that we can almost ignore right now at their cost. Zacchaeus, Pat Bryant, until he falls a little bit more. DJ Giddens, you can ignore unless you need like a Indianapolis Colts stack or something like that right now. He was an intriguing pick last year, but he didn't do anything. He sat out a bunch last year of a bunch of games. He was just benched and sat out of, or like, didn't even suit up. And so that makes you pretty bearish about what's going to happen this year if he couldn't even see the field last year. Isaiah Davis, I don't know why he's even where he is. Currently the third running back on the Jets. Audric Estime, there's just too many bodies in New Orleans now, so it makes sense why he's falling. Kareem Hunt, still falling as a free agent. And so then after that, we do have some guys that are a little more high profile that are falling. Devon Achane now out of the first round and in the second round makes sense to me. If you ask me, I think he should still be falling. I think you should maybe just sprinkle him in a pick here or there if you don't have a lot of Devon Achane. But if you're one of those people that were drafting him at pick like 10, 11, and 12 before this fall happened, I think then you probably want to maybe wait a little longer and try to get unique with him as opposed to just keep on overdrafting him. Not really a fan of him even at pick 13 with what Miami's got going on. For me, I haven't really drafted much Devon Achane at all. So in the right place, like if I'm not in love with anyone else, I'll just take him just to kind of get a team with Devon Achane. You don't want to be at 0% with someone that has the skills he has. It's just not exciting to have him at this point in time again because of Miami. Brock Bowers making his way closer and closer to that third round. And I mean, he's got to be a good pick here, right? So if you can kind of get him in that third round, even better. James Cook is falling a little bit. Maybe that's just because Justin Jefferson's getting picked before more and more often at this point in time. I guess that makes sense. Puka Nacua falling, maybe because of some of the news, and then therefore now more people are like, oh, I'll take Jamar Chase with the third pick as opposed to Puka Nacua, whatever. Cortland Sutton falling, and this one, makes sense because they did get Waddle. I was expecting Sutton to maybe fall like to the like 77 is what I think I said. Other people think he's going to get into the hundreds. I find it hard to believe that he'll get to the hundreds with how slow he's falling right now. Maybe when it comes to the actual main drafts after the NFL draft, maybe then he gets to the hundreds or something like that. But I think he's kind of going to be living in these 70s here for the next month. And I think like at 70, when he gets into the mid 70s, late 70s more, he becomes a pick that makes sense depending on your build and also a nice backstack with Bo Nix. Ricky Pearsall falling because of Mike Evans and then Christian Kirk they signed. Uh, I think he is a upside pick, right? Like he showed he could do it in a couple games. He just hasn't done it consistently and been injured more often than doing things on the field. So he is a scary pick also. Hard to just take him every single time. That being said, if you catch him falling, I think he's a fun pick to take and could pay off big time, or he could just crater your draft like you did the other year. CD Lamb falling a little bit, same reason as probably DJ Giddens is falling. Sometimes Justin Jefferson is going before CD Lamb. And then we got Jameson Williams here, still falling 14% for the month, which is kind of crazy. Like, I don't know what's changed to make him fall so much. No one's I haven't seen any news to say he should fall. I haven't seen any news that makes, for example, the tight end on the Lions be like such. In fact, the tight end on the Lions is falling as well, at least on underdog. So why is Jameson Williams falling also? I mean, this is a possible pick here. Like, what I'd be taking him when he makes sense on my teams. Round pick 50 here, you can definitely stack him. Now in the beginning of the next round, as opposed to the earlier round, you can stack him with Stephon Diggs. So you can get a Diggs, Williams, Goff stack or something like that, which I think is a nice stack to have. You get the most explosiveness on the ground and the most explosiveness in the air. And so when you're trying to get just an explosive week, you can't get more explosive than some of those players. And with a statue quarterback like Goff, you want to see that huge week. And then, of course, Goff benefit from it as well. That's the whole point of stacking. Here are our platform values for DraftKings relative to underdog. We still have a lot of the rookies on here, a lot of the free agents on here as well. And it looks like maybe a lot of Tampa Bay Buccaneers also. Trevion Henderson fell off the list again, he's still at like 10% value relative to DraftKings, but he fell off the list. I think the players to look at on here, we got Jameson Williams now a value on DraftKings because he's been falling. I think the player that we're going to talk about here that we haven't, we're going to talk about the rookies again. Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon. Uh, and I'm not sure exactly what makes sense with these ones if you ask me, but uh, listening to other people talk about like how good they are as far as rookies go and how they compare to other classes, I don't think anyone's super high on these players. If you want to kind of compare to other classes, you have McMillan that was the top rookie last year, and he drafted number 7, right, to Panthers or something like that. And he was being drafted, I believe, mainly in the um, at some point a little bit in the end of the third round, but I think mainly in the fourth round he was being drafted, if I'm not mistaken. And you can see here, you can get Tate a little bit after that. He's like in the fifth round oftentimes, and he's falling into the sixth round as well. So uh, at least you're not paying up for the cost of Tet last year, which makes this seem like a decent pick because of that. There are some other interesting players around here. Like, I really think that the Christian Watson for the Green Bay Packers, he kind of proved that he could stay on the field last year. He could prove that he could consolidate some targets on a team that has been really like throwing it all over the place. So Watson, I think, is an intriguing pick, and I'm kind of scared that he feels like an intriguing pick to me because I don't think other people are really talking about it as an intriguing pick. I don't take him every time, but there's a lot of North players that you can take around that time too. So I think it makes sense. Like Justin Jefferson in the first round, and then you get one of the Bears in the second or third round, and you'd like a Jamison Williams or something like that too. And then you take a Watson, and you have like all of the NFC North covered for a lot of bringbacks here pre-draft. Makes a little bit less sense after the draft when you know the schedule, but right now I think those are interesting. Watson's a really interesting pick as well. I find it hard to take take Tate over Watson. Just my kind of how I lean right now. That being said, it does seem like there's some value here in these running or these wide receivers relative to the top wide receivers from last year. So I wouldn't be scared of them. I don't know if I'd be way over the top on them. Again, they are the fallers, so I would still be trying to push them around unless I really, really like them at their cost. And that way I don't end up way too overweight on them and I get more unique, better teams because of it. Those are our DraftKings market movers for the day. Good luck getting great value on Brian Robinson. I want him ahead of Isaiah Pacheco, but I don't want to pay the cost of Isaiah Pacheco if possible. So if you can get Brian Robinson in like the 180s, that's awesome. He's going to start moving up though. And as he starts moving up, and as you look at your drafts, if you have a draft with a team that seems to be very sharp, or not, doesn't have to be very sharp even, just seems like they're kind of grabbing the players that are the big buzz players. Brian Robinson's going to be one of those buzz players. And so if you got someone else that's taking a bunch of buzz players, they need a running back, likely they'll take Brian Robinson. So if that's the case, maybe you overdraft him a little bit relative to ADP. But if you got people that are just taking players based on ADP, maybe you can push Brian Robinson around one more round. I think it's great when you can still get good value on these players versus be the one that's just driving up their ADP higher and higher and higher. That's my last 2 cents on Brian Robinson. Good luck finding him. Mix in a little bit of Jordan James maybe. And I will see you on the next Market Movers. Peace.